YouTube, what's going on? This is the Alpine Ridge, and I'm here to bring you some Shogun 2 Total War multiplayer action. Get you some views of the troops here. I am using my second avatar, which is Apache's Legacy at this point. See my troops running up here. This is a fun map. It's one I haven't played in a while. I had a fun game here, I thought, and wanted to show you some of the highlights. It's, you know, not necessarily championship quality, but it had some interesting points in it. I'm going to start out these videos with the build of each army, and then I'll actually go to the recording itself, that way we don't have to go through it. So I'll go up here above, and we'll run through the build of my opponent. He does have a couple of units hidden. I'll show you those as they become unhidden later on in the battle. So he's got an elite bow warrior monk here. It's really only level 5, so it doesn't have extended ammo, which I think is a mistake, but it does have extended range. He's got a katana samurai here and here. These are quite good, both of them with attack 18, 6 defense. Not a bad unit at all. He's got a nagi samurai here, level 5. Looks like it has an upgraded bonus versus cavalry. I did this at one point in the game and found that it wasn't super useful, but we'll see how it turns out for my opponent. Here's his avatar's bodyguard. It is a melee general with huge charge. Looks like he's level 8, not quite level 10. And the only other unit that was visible is back here at the moment, which is this Dunderbuss cab. He's got dismounted capping the workshop. And then this unit just came out of hiding here as a fire cav. So that's all I can see at the moment. Let's take a look at my troops. Start kind of blobbed up, but I can run through it with you. I've got Apache, who right now is a bow general. That may change over time. He does have armor-piercing arrows, full accuracy, and full bow damage. He doesn't have any reload skill yet. And then I've got a bow cav, a warrior monk cap level 1, and another warrior monk cap level 1. Both of these just have an attack upgrade. And then I brought this Anabushi heroine here that has 2 attack upgrades to make its attack 24. I'll explain that unit later. Up front, I've got 2 Yari samurai. One is a level 2 veteran. It's got 2 attack actually, I think. And the defense is from the Yari Master Retainer that I'm playing. And then I've got 3 Nodachi Samurai, all vanilla. And I have, I want to say, 1 Naginata attendant that's walking with my Portuguese terços, which are right here. In any case, that's my army. I do have a little bit of a hidden component, though. I have a light cav that started off hidden, and I foolishly moved it. And then I had another light cav that was started off hidden, but I went ahead and pulled it out. So, let's get back to the beginning of this, and I'll explain the tactics now that you know the armies. Alright, so the map was Alpine Ridge, like I stated earlier in the intro. I like this map because of that center feature, obviously, but it's also got some other fun stuff on it. There's a lot of open ground here with which to skirmish, and then the hill, of course, provides some cover from the skirmish, and then there's like these 2 small woods, and then the dojos are on the far side of, you know, each side of the ridge, so you can either spread out and go for both dojos, or you can really go hard for one dojo. At this point, my army is probably a little more skirmish-centric than I would normally be. This is a medium funds battle, by the way. So because it's medium funds, I have a bow cav, my bow general, and a Portuguese terços. I've spent a fair amount of money on skirmishing, so I'm rushing for the archery dojo. So that's what my troops are doing here. Try and get you some nice views. So pretty. Yep, so I'm making it to the archery dojo, and I'm going to lock it down. My opponent chooses to go for the workshop, which isn't a bad one to have. I mean, his katana samurai are already pretty tough, and if you add extra defense and armor, it's going to make them very tough. So my opponent's build, compared to mine, is definitely stronger in the infantry department. These 2 katana samurai will paste my Nodachis. Just, they're very good units. And then he's got this bow warrior monk, so even though I think that I have a numeric skirmishing advantage, my opponent has a range advantage because of these. However, my opponent does have this Dunderbuss cav here, which I don't believe has any, well, 1 upgrade. Looks like 1 upgrade to accuracy. That's a mobile skirmishing component. His Nagi Samurai aren't particularly strong, and they're really, that bonus versus cav is a risky move, and I'll tell you why. It's because players just usually aren't going to run their cav into your Naginata Samurai. And these guys are already so good against cavalry that I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I've done a bunch of tests and stuff. I mean, you can run like you know, if you're going into an attack with a cavalry unit, these guys can take anything. Like, they can get charged by cav, they'll barely lose anything almost all the time. So Naginata Samurai, wouldn't recommend the bonus versus cav, but who knows, maybe my opponent's got some plan. His general is very good on the charge, if you look, very good armor. His attack, though, should probably be a little higher if he's going to be a melee gen, but, you know, we'll see how it goes. In the cavalry department, I have seen a fire cav, and I can see this Dunderbuss. Numerically speaking, I'm feeling good, but I don't know what else my opponent may have hidden, and at this point, I was assuming he probably did have one more unit hidden. If you look at these Dunderbuss, well, they're dismounted, so it changes it, but their melee attack really actually isn't that bad. So if your cavalry doesn't get a good charge bonus versus them, they'll do okay in a melee, but they won't do great. Okay, so you're hearing that Patchy's in danger, and it's because that I decided to try and do a little skirmishing with this bow monk. This was utterly foolish, to be honest. I came out head-on, thinking that my bow cav and general might be able to help initiate a quick knockout onto those bow monks, but the bow monks are going to have much quicker reload, much better accuracy. I mean, my general has about the same accuracy as the bow monks, but yeah, the bow monks are just going to fire quicker, and bow monks also have a good damage, what do you call it, statistic, so they're going to put down damage on just about any unit that you're shooting at. Where the bow monks will be worth less is against a moving target. So you can see that I brought my bow cav out. I'm going to do just a little bit of skirmishing. I'll let my bow cav fire a few shots here and there while running around trying to get him to spend some ammunition. So you can see me constantly changing which direction I'm heading in, and it's definitely slowing down the rate at which the bow monks are killing me, whereas when I run away in a straight line, right there, you can see they got a bunch of kills. So the best way to dodge arrows if you're going to use the bow cav is to consistently change directions. Like right there, you can see I juked those arrows, but then I stood still and took some of those. So it's definitely an art to it if you're really going to do that. The best thing to do, actually, though, is just to not do what I'm doing. I should take my bow general up one flank, and I should take my bow cav down another flank, then the bow monk has to choose a target. So my choosing of the skirmish battle so far was foolish. When you have a bow general, to lose 9 of them so early in the battle was pretty stupid. So I'm going to start playing a lot smarter with my units here. So I've got these units set up on the ridge to keep my opponent's front facing me, but I'm not going to move into range of these bow monks. And then I'm starting a flanking maneuver over here. I've got a light cav moving into the woods, and then I've got my Tersos and Naginata intended to support them moving into these woods. These woods will provide me cover from the bow monk, and the armor of the Tersos will make them essentially invulnerable to those bow monks while they're in the woods, especially if I go into loose formation. Let me explain what I've got going on with the cavalry. So in these medium funds battles a lot, I like running really strong cav because it seems to work well against most players. Even spear spams. I played a spear spam that I'll have to show you that video. I didn't play very good against it, but I can show you how to defeat a spear spam even when you're cav heavy. Spear spam is a pretty popular way to fight against these very mobile armies like I'm using here, and there's all types of variations of these mobile armies. So why the Naginata Warrior Monk Cav? Because they're very cost effective in this particular position I'm in. Their charge isn't great, but if you look, they've got 15 attack and 15 morale, and they cost the same as a Yari Cav. And so they're very cost effective for me if I can break up the charge with a light cav. The purpose of this Anabushi Heroine is never, ever, ever to be in a charge with enemy cavalry. What I hope to do with it is to take it into the back of a cav fight, because these women here have some ridiculous attack. 24 attack and a 12 bonus versus cav. They are ridiculously effective against cavalry if you can get them into the back of a fight and avoid a head-on collision, because they do run in loose formation as their Rise of the Samurai unit. So something that they can be used for. I have 2 upgrades on them, which means this unit costs 900 koku. They even come with a little bow. It's not very good, so don't count on the bow that it's going to do you a lot, but it can sometimes force an engagement that someone doesn't want to take. So my opponent's got his fire cav lined up over here. I'm more than happy to let my Anabushi Hirun take some shots. Really, though, my general is the only unit that would be killing this fire cav because they have a decent armor statistic. Okay, so now you can see the range in which my Tersos can cover. I've got my cav out on one flank, and I'm not really going to let my opponent turn his attention, because if he does, I'll just bring in my infantry. But I really don't want to bring in my infantry because, again, my opponent's infantry is better. So not something that I want to do until I've had a chance to do some skirmishing, or at least choose the engagement the way I want to. Cavalry-wise, I've got a light cav and a bow cav. Let's see, so Warrior Monk on a Bushi Heroine. I've got a light cav over here and a light cav here. What I'm hoping to do is to taunt my opponent into a cav engagement with my missile cav, which I have 3 units of at this point. And then I'm hoping to catch his Dunderbuss cav off guard with my light cav, or possibly an Anabushi Heroine. So that's my goal. I want to goad my opponent into a cav engagement. And over here, I'm just going to kind of waste some time with my Terso, see if I can get in range. I didn't move them quite far enough. But you can see those bow monks have fired a couple of volleys and haven't gotten a single kill. These guys have 8 armor. They're in loose formation. They're moving. The bow monks are going to have almost no effect. So my opponent does a smart thing, though, and he pulls back, so I'm going to have to pull back. I don't want to push too much because then he can rush me with his infantry, and it'll be hard for me to get away. Even there, with fire arrows, only 4 kills. Here comes a second volley worth of fire arrows. Only 6 kills total now. He's really not accomplishing much with that bow monk on my Tersos. So it's definitely something that I'm able to do. And again, he doesn't have extended ammunition, and I control the archery dojo. So anything I can do to get my opponent to waste ammunition of this bow monk is good. It's got 42 kills, which is more than I should have given it, but it's not, it's not great. When you think about the cost of these guys, I think an unvetted bow warrior monk costs like 1,000 koku. They're very, very expensive, which means potentially this thing costs about 1,250 koku. So it's going to have to kill probably a unit and part of another one to pay for itself. So if it doesn't get that many kills, then it won't be worth it. Again, alright, over here. So I know the fire cav is in the woods. I'm going to try and taunt it into an engagement. See, the other enemy cavalry is a little bit far away. And it's a little bit far away from spear support, so I'm going to move up. And here comes that fire cav, so I'm immediately going to pull back. Again, trying to draw him away from the safety of his reinforcements. My opponent is not buying that, but I'm going to keep attempting it. Oh, the other nice thing about this Anabushi Heroine is that it has a aura, morale aura, which is nice. So my general's here with the morale aura, and the Anabushi Heroine is there with the morale aura. That helps your units stay inspired. They can be inspired by nearby unit, is what you'll see on them. This is the Yari cavalry that my opponent had hidden. He's put all the upgrades in the charge. So if you look at the attack on this Yari cav, it's very low, which means this Yari cav is only going to be good on the charge, which means that you should charge, pull out, charge again, pull out, charge again. That's the way that this should work. However, we'll see if my opponent does it that way. Over here, I decided to use my light cav to harass his bow monks to give my Tersos time to pull up and try and take some shots. They're still not in range, though. But I'm trying to, at this point, start out micromanage my opponent, which I'm not sure that I successfully do. But here you can see I did draw his fire cav out. I killed 6 of them. And I'm going to keep pulling away from this engagement to try and pull my opponent further away from reinforcing spear troops. And I do somewhat succeed in doing this, but his fire cav killed a bunch of my Anabushi Heroine, which is bad. But here, I'm going to go ahead. My opponent, blobs all of his charge into one of my warrior monk cav, and he starts to run his Dunderbuss away from my light cav. So I did it immediately. I did what I said I was going to do, which was intercept this Dunderbuss cav. What I should have done, though, is pulled my Anabushi Heroine out of the fight and back around the back. But here I do successfully catch his Dunderbuss cav, and I'm going to destroy it. The bow cav will get destroyed by the Dunderbuss, but my light cav should do quite well against them. I'm going to immediately pull my general around behind the fight. I rallied my men, but my opponent did as well. And I'm going to start trying to put some arrows into the back of this cav fight. Any of his guys that I can kill at this point is going to be very worthwhile. And since my general is so close, these units aren't moving, and he has armor-piercing arrows, he will get some kills here. It's not going to be some huge number of kills, but the kills he gets will be very important, as anything is going to make a huge difference at this point. I went ahead and pulled out of that fight with the Dunderbuss because they were pretty much dead. And I'm going to charge into the back of his cav. I've got to do everything I can because you can see my cav is starting to falter. My monk cav didn't get a lot of kills, but they really hung in there for a long time. My Anabushi Heroine, too, I misused it, so not a whole lot of kills, but they've at least gotten at least 1-for-1 kills right now, which isn't great. Okay, his general's going to chase off my general. He should have done that a while ago. His general's now going to turn around and go back into the fight, so I'm just going to simply come back with my general, and at this point, it's going to turn into a sniping mission. I'm pretty sure, yep, I have an attack order clicked on his general, because if I can take his general out, then this engagement was totally worth it for me, because I've still got a light cav over here harassing my opponent too, though I am letting it get shot a little too much by bow warrior monks. So here you can see me going after his bow warrior monks, decide to call that one off, and I'm harassing him with my Tersos here too, which I've allowed to take some shots from the bow warrior monks too. But all in all, in a skirmishing engagement, I'm still in better shape skirmishing wise. I've got the bow dojo, and I want to say my general does have 1 speed upgrade because I'm wanting to get down and put reload on him. So I'm going to try reload. Reload may or may not be really necessary. I kind of want it just because I can get more volleys out there, but at the same time, you know, like some people say, a lot of times when you're skirmishing, you know, it's just a quick run in, shoot, and run out, so that a lot of people don't like reload. I don't know. I'm going to give it a try. I may not use the bow general forever. I actually have some plans on how to upgrade this avatar to make it kind of interesting. But for now, in these lower funds battle, the bow general does fairly well. Especially since even if I was a leader general, I wouldn't have access to increased army morale or stand and fight. So it really doesn't make much sense for me to use the leader general in these lower funds battles. So I've definitely won some type of maneuverability advantage here in the sense that my opponent does have this fire cav. Well, you know what? I actually haven't. That engagement probably really wasn't that good for me. Yeah, it really wasn't. He's got some Yari cav, fire cav, and a melee general left, and all I've got is a light cav and my general. So because I didn't take my Anabushi heroine to the rear of that fight, and also because I allowed his Dunderbuss cav to get my bow cav, I should have just let my light cav fight his Dunderbuss cav. That was a mistake. It could have kept me better in this game, but my general is still a very viable unit here. My opponent is going to have to kill my general to get him to stop shooting, because obviously my general can continue to shoot these high-value targets. And so I just moved this Yari samurai over here to protect my general, and what can my opponent do? I can just keep my general right in the midst. So this is going to force an attack from him, and look at that. His fire cav stood still and took some devastating shots there from my bow general. Again, the bow general is not so great when a unit's moving, but very effective when a unit's standing still or when you're very close. My opponent's charging, and you might be like, "Hey, you chicken, you're running away." You're darn right I'm running away. He's got better melee infantry. He's still got his general. He's got this bow monk that can lay down a lot of fire on my nodachis. I'm not in a very good position to engage my opponent, so I'm going to pull back. I see his bow monk getting exposed here, though, running forward. So I do click an attack order real quick with my Tersos, who move into range and get a good volley here. So that's going to put an end to the bow warrior monk threat. And I have no idea what my opponent's doing with the bow warrior monks here. He should have used that range advantage better. I was thinking at this point, I left my guys on fire at will, or no, I forgot to not click the attack order, so their second volley is wasted on a routing unit of bow monks, which is absolutely foolish because there was a very high chevron katana samurai well within my range, so another blundering mistake on my part. And at this point I decide, okay, I'll take the fight. I think I can do well. I'm going to charge my nodachis, which I did, and I figured, hey, on the charge, my nodachis, oh no, I didn't charge my nodachis to the last second. Blunder number 2. But I start out okay versus these, well, never mind though, those katana samurai ripped me to pieces. Let's see, the katana samurai have almost as high a charge as my nodachi, so yeah, his katana samurai won that charge. Over here against these Nagi samurai, I won the charge, and my guys will do better there. I'm lining up these Tersos to see if I can fire into this Nodachi unit. I've already had to bonsai 2 of my Nodachis, though, because they're getting absolutely shredded. And then my opponent's coming in with this Naginata samurai for reinforcements. I do have my Nagi attendant. My general is... I pulled this Yari samurai back to protect him. I got a... Well, my guy shot into the back of my own men. Yeah, man, I'm blundering all over this battle. Wow, it's even worse than I remembered. So, as you can see here, my opponent is going to absolutely chew through my infantry. The only place where I'm going to win is right here against this Nagi samurai, and that's the one that makes sense, to be honest. Over here, I have a Yari samurai in here as well to help hold down these units a little longer. The bonsai, you can see, was extremely effective. My men fighting all the way down to 12. And then over here, down into the fight, down to 11 men. So don't pop that bonsai until you need it. Over here, my Nodachi got charged by these Yari cav. And my opponent was trying to break them. He didn't quite get the best angle to charge, though, and then my Tersos are going to fire in there, so his Yari cav's gone. His Naginata samurai are going to rout here, but so are my Nodachis. So yeah, my opponent clearly wins the infantry fight, so at this point my bow general and those Tersos become the only way that I can win this battle. So if my opponent's smart, he's just going to keep charging, and he's not going to let me sit still, but I have some remedies for that. I can go ahead and use this Nagi attendant to hold him at bay while my bow general continues to take shots. So you can see that that's what's happening here. I can target this Naginata samurai with my bow general. It's the smartest target because these katana samurai, well, I say it's the smartest target. This is a high armor target. and because of the armor-piercing nature of the arrows on my general, it's definitely a viable target. I was trying to get some shots here with my tersos, but I decided to retreat them rather than risk them getting caught. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Yari Samurai to hold off the Katana Samurai. So click the last second charge order. His guys might have been charging my tersos, they probably were, which turned out fairly well for my Yari Samurai there. I don't want to shoot into my own guys' backs though, because this Yari Samurai will last a while in this fight. What I would like to do is get my my tersos in a better position to hit these units that are now flanking. And if anything, I'll just keep running with my tersos while my general shoots the enemy infantry in the back. So I did manage to rout those units, so what I'll do now is probably, yep, there comes the attack order. I'm going to try and hold down his remaining infantry. My tersos now can tank flank shots without killing a lot of my own men. I probably still will get the friendly fire penalty, but at least I'm not shooting them right in the back. And then my general here too, getting some really nice back shots. My Nagi attendant came back from routing, so just because you choose some bad decisions like I did in this, you can still win the battle if you are able to consolidate your troops and make the right decisions in the late game. So even though I lost the cav fight, I had some good late game units left, and my opponent allowed me to use those effectively by throwing away that bow warrior monk. If he would have kept that bow warrior monk in the fight, he could have really changed the way this engagement would have gone. But I think that my opponent obviously would have been better to just bring a bow Ashigaru and a matchlock Ashigaru, because then he could have really given my Portuguese tersos a lot of trouble. I mean, a bow warrior monk is a very good unit. They're just very hard to use. So I'm going to end the battle and show you the statistics. I do have some more footage that I'll show you real quick. Again, none of these battles are like super high level. I'm just trying to give you all some tips here so that you can understand some decision-making process. I'm kind of like in the process of relearning this game because I spent a lot of time not really playing it online. The matchmaking games aren't really that great anymore. There's not a lot of great players in matchmaking. So to be honest, if you're a newer player, now is a pretty good time to be in matchmaking. And folks aren't really using a very big variety of tactics. So it definitely makes it to where you can certainly win these fights if you know how to do it. Like I said, right now I'm running mostly on a cav heavy type setup. However, there's people are definitely running spear spam quite a bit, because folks like myself, who aren't that great at the cav heavy setup, can sometimes definitely get caught off guard by a spear spam. You can see my opponent did get more kills. I did manage to win the fight, though. It was a Pyrrhic victory, nothing pretty. These tersos were obviously a pivot unit, and so was my bodyguard. They got more kills than any other unit. So that's how the bow general can be very effective. Obviously, he can get a lot more kills than that, too. You can see my other units, though, a lot of them not really used properly in the right type of engagement. But look, this Anabusha heroine, even in a poor engagement, did manage to get 28 kills with only 18, and that's 28 kills against like Fire Cav and Yari Cav, so that's not super bad. It's not good. They cost about the same as a vanilla Yari Cav, so I guess when you consider that it killed maybe half of a Fire Cav unit or something, I don't know exactly which cav it got a hold of. That's questionable as to whether or not that was cost effective, but it did pretty well considering that I let it get charged and stuff. In any case, let's pick up another replay and I'll show you some other footage that I got.